It is October. It is the last day of October, also known as Halloween or Old Hallows Eve, the night the spirits walk the world. Or should I say little children in costumes. Yes, today guys, it's Halloween, and to support the Halloween traditions, I have made a little haunted mansion, and I'll give you a quick tour of it. It's a very brief tour. This video isn't really centered around this mansion. I'm just happy how it turned out and I wanted to show you it. Now, if you saw this on a hill, would you go trick-or-treating? Well, it depends on whether or not you like to trick-or-treat in scary places. If you don't like to trick-or-treat in scary places, then you're not going to get up here, but I think most of you are brave enough. I'm pretty sure you would go over and have a little investigation. So, we have a nice big haunted mansion, but most of you won't have this in your worlds. In fact, I'm pretty sure a lot of you won't have a haunted mansion in your world. And for one day, you probably wouldn't want to go to the effort of making a whole haunted mansion. So, today guys, I am going to do a building tips and tricks episode on how to spookify your house. Just how to decorate it. You don't have to go through all this whole rebuilding process or build a whole new place to collect your trick-or-treaters. All you need to do is decorate your house. And so, for this episode of Building Tips and Tricks, I am going to be decorating one of these houses. So, I made a little house off camera. It's kind of a medieval, sort of rustic medieval style of house. Has a nice prismarine roof, some nice walls. Basically, it's just a cozy little house. And yes, I actually went through the effort of making an interior, and I'm quite happy with this interior. I'm not a massive interior guy, but I'm happy with how this turned out. Anyway, how would you attract trick-or-treaters to this house? Well, step 1 is you change the palette. No one's going to go to a house with a nice, pretty little looking roof and some nice peachy birch coloured walls. You're gonna have to change up the palette. Now, you may want this to look still like a medieval house, you may not, but this is the process I would go through. Okay, so I've changed up the palette a bit. I've made the wood a bit darker. I've changed the gradient from dark oak to spruce instead of oak to birch wood. I've also changed the roof to nether brick. Now, you can use all sorts of things. You could just go with a simple cobblestone look. To be honest, dark prismarine doesn't look that bad. You could even use grey concrete, cyan terracotta, dark oak wood, or even red nether brick. I also added a little lining on the top with anvils, cauldrons and grey carpet. I think it looks really good, often as railing, and it looks quite good on the top of houses in my opinion. Now let's focus our attention on the garden. It's okay. I mean, for that kind of house, it looks really nice and summery with all the flowers and the wheat, but not very spooky and Halloweeny. So we're going to change up all of these crops so that they're wheat and pumpkins, and you'll see why in a minute. I'm also going to change up the grass paths for soul sand. Going to put a bit of dark oak here and there, and some brown terracotta, which creates a nice muddy feeling. Okay, so now we've changed up the wheat, and we're actually going for stage 2 or 3 rather than the maximum stage, which is 7, because it kind of looks a bit more dead. I have random tick speed turned off. If you have it switched on, it doesn't look too bad if it's just the normal height, but it does look a bit better if you can make it look a bit more weathered. And also, this is using a texture pack as well. So the wheat does look a bit different in this, but it still looks quite good in the normal texture pack. And we're also going to add some dead bushes and pumpkins, because you can't have Halloween without pumpkins. I'm also going to use dark oak fences and hay just to make a little scarecrow. We're probably going to put it here for the jack-o'-lantern, for the head, just to emit a bit of light, and also scare away the crows, which, by the way, we really need in Minecraft. I'd love crows in Minecraft. And we're actually going to change the biome to a swamp. Now we're going to have to relog for this, and if you don't have access to World Edit, you may not be able to do this, but I am able to do this because I have World Edit. It's not the end of the world if you can't though. And once again, we're going to change some of the path blocks to dark oak, soul sand and terracotta. Now we actually have some flowers decorating the area, but they don't look too good in a Halloween scenario. So, firstly we're going to pick some wither roses, which I feel would look really great replacing the lily of the valley. And I'm going to use orange tulips to replace the blue orchids, just because it looks a bit more pumpkin-y and Halloweeny. You don't have to do that though if you don't want. Sugarcane, however, fits really nicely because of the swamp colours. I'm also going to plant some netherwort here and there, and also some podzol so I can plant brown mushrooms on, as mushrooms often have quite a Halloweeny vibes, quite fungal vibes, and they can create a nice sense of atmosphere. And as you can see, we've already spruced the garden up a bit. Now, I might, in the long run, remove these because they do look a bit too friendly. In fact, yeah, I will, because the green doesn't really match the surroundings. But orange tulips are a good way to go if you like. Instead, I'm just going to go for ferns for this. We don't really need flowers. Also, by the way, if you can hear background noise, I have a skylight right above my computer, and it's raining, so it might be a bit noisy for you, but hopefully you shouldn't hear it too much. Now, we have a pond here, and with the swamp colours it kind of looks quite nice. However, just to show you how to do it, you can replace it with glass. Now, it's often a good idea to layer it up a bit, and it kind of looks like some sort of ectoplasm or goo, but I personally prefer the water. And we could also put some lily pads on it, just to make it a little more overgrown. Now the leaves themselves I'm probably going to leave, although I may change them to dark oak or spruce, just because of the swamp colours. Yeah, dark oak is a tiny bit darker using the swamp colours, and it also looks a bit nicer with the berries in my pack, so I'll probably interchange the oak and dark oak everywhere in this hedge. And here we have it, a nice looking garden. But this tree is looking a bit too alive for my liking. I think we're going to have to tear it down. Yeah, now we're left with the bare bones of the tree, which definitely looks a lot better, or should I say a lot worse. However, I'm going to change out the blocks for a different palette. Now, I'd suggest using either dark oak wood and dark oak slabs, or acacia wood and stone or cobblestone slabs, because the branches then match the colour of the wood, and it also looks a little more spooky and dead. Now, of course, this is now looking more like a spooky haunted mansion, and it's mostly just with a few texture and palette changes. However, there are a few things I want to do, mostly with the windows now. And you probably saw it in the other house. I actually had glowing pumpkin windows. Now, the way you do this is, and it often looks better with shaders, but it still works like this. You replace the window with jack-o'-lanterns like so. It looks awful from the inside and you can't see outside, so you may not want to do this. But I personally think it's worth the sacrifice. Now the reason I'm using jack-o'-lanterns is just because they are a light source. You can use pumpkins, carved pumpkins, or even things like such as bee nests, or honey blocks, or any sort of yellow blocks I think tend to work, but I think stripy blocks such as pumpkins probably work the best. And also walls and fences, if you're using them for decoration, they won't connect to them if that's something you're looking for. So how does this look from the outside? It definitely looks a lot more atmospheric and dark and very haunted, possibly on the inside. However, I have a lot less space than I did in the Haunted Mansion. They looked a lot different in the Haunted Mansion, and that's because I actually used glass panes and orange terracotta instead. So what I did was I built up the window like so, then I mixed in some orange terracotta, then I covered it in glass and added in a tiny bit of yellow. You see, it looks slightly different. It's a bit more faded and definitely looks a lot better. But if you don't have as much space, which I don't have in this build, unless you want to ruin the interior, then I suggest just using the pumpkins on their own. Or even just using this different colour of stained glass. And already you can see a big difference in the houses. But this isn't going to invite trick-or-treaters. It just looks like a neglected, pretty creepy house. You want some decorations, so let's get some jack-o'-lanterns and also some pumpkins and put them out on the front. Now the reason why I've got pumpkins is because they kind of add a little more variety, because it looks like they've burnt out a bit, the candles. However, mostly use jack-o'-lanterns. And one feature that's actually quite a nice feature, there are two main ways to do this. The first one is to put a sea pickle on the top of them, and it gives them a stem. Now, I can't take credit for this, but it does look really awesome, as you can see here. However, these are pumpkins being used for Halloween. They're going to be dead, mostly. So, pumpkins often look better with a button on top instead, because it's just more a dried up stem. Now let's add up some Halloween bunting. You can just add some orange and black, or black and purple, or black and green. Anything with black, to be honest. And it often looks quite nice and spooky just by adding this banner super quickly. As you can see, it takes about 30 seconds to do, and already it just is a bit more inviting and homely. You do want to attract trick-or-treaters, don't you? Or maybe you want the sweets for yourself. Maybe you don't want to do that. Now, if you want this build to be a bit more kid-friendly, you may not want to do this because, I mean, you don't really want dead things around your house, but you can put a few skulls. That's not too non-kid friendly, but you probably don't want to put the redstone as blood if you have children playing on your server, just to be on the safe side. And we can also add just a little path on the front. It just looks a bit nicer. And another cool little design is to have a gravestone like this, or alternatively like this, and have some coaster and podster at the front, then put a zombie head and two sea pickles, because it kind of looks like arms. I got this design from System Z. I'm not sure whether he was the original creator or not, but I still think it looks pretty awesome either way. Also, replace a bit of cobblestone with mossy cobblestone. It just makes it look a bit more swampy and overgrown. It's just a nicer feature to add if you'd like to go to that effort. Now, another thing that can make your house look nice, overgrown, and kind of unappetizing in a way. I know that's food related, but it kind of makes a bit of sense. Just drape it in leaves. Cover any walls that don't have windows and things with the leaves, and it kind of looks like it's just a bit more overgrown. Maybe there are some sort of triffids, if you've read Day of the Triffids. Okay, maybe not, but it kind of makes it a bit spooky. And just add some cobwebs here and there, because everybody knows spiders are Halloweeny, spooky. You should probably have a few cobwebs here and there if it's a Halloween build. And there we have it. We have created a whole new house just from changing the palette and adding a few blocks. It's exactly the same, but it's a lot more haunted and spooky. Now, there's a reason why I didn't include things like armor stands and commands, which can really add to your builds, and if you have access to them, I'd totally recommend you use armor stands and commands just to add more features such as jump scares and even things like smaller pumpkins with armor stand pumpkins. But I know for a fact a lot of people just don't like watching videos with armor stands and commands. They're often hard to replicate and often take up a lot of time just explaining them all, and it would require a whole extra episode in my opinion just to cover that, so that's why I'm not covering it. However, there are plenty of videos on YouTube and things that tackle this. I would if I had the time, but for now I'm not going to. Maybe next year. Anyway, thank you for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, please, as usual, leave a suggestion down below. I'd like to promote my Discord server. If you'd like, if you follow any of these tips and decide to spookify one of your Minecraft builds, post it in one of the build sections on there, and I'll be sure to see it. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.